Okay, welcome to the video. So I was gonna put some theme music actually at the start of this video, as I'm pretty excited, as I'm sure most of you are, watching these events that we've been waiting so long for and unfold before our eyes. It's just incredible. So yeah, I was gonna if you have any suggestions for theme music, you can put them in the bottom. Maybe I'll include them at the start of the next video. But this video today, we're not going to be doing any decoding. For the most part, we're just going to be going over a rough timeline of events that I put together for the next kind of week and a half. I did make a post about this, but I'm going to talk about it in a little more depth, and we're going to kind of contrast the events I see as solid in the timeline, and then the variables, and we're going to see how we can kind of piece everything together. And there's a reason why I named this video Campfire Talks. I'd love to hear your opinions, and just we'll try and figure this thing out together, even though we're going to see this unfold before our eyes very shortly. But yeah, before I begin here, I'm just going to read a quick and simple gospel. John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. And that's all you have to do. All you have to do is believe in him. It doesn't matter how good of a person you've been in your life, or how often you go to church or give to charity. We all sin and we all fall short of salvation. Our only salvation is through believing in his sacrifice on the cross and what he did for us. It's a free gift, and the only thing that we have to do is accept it. Okay, so we'll go over here. Before I begin here, I'll just read a quick disclaimer. Everything from this point forward is just for entertainment purposes, not to be taken seriously. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, wink, wink. I'm just going to read this verse here. Micah chapter 4, verse 9. Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail. So I'm sure most of you are very familiar with this verse. Anyone that's not, you can see the very strong resemblance to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3, as I see these events playing out. I'm almost simultaneously, and we can almost see that happening in the news. Actually, we can see that happening in the news. But yeah, so we're just going to talk about who is the king and who is the counselor. So I'm going to go to our first kind of set of news articles here. So you have this today. 60% of Zionists want Netanyahu to resign, which is, I think we saw this coming. So if you haven't guessed, this is who I believe the king is, because this verse is in reference to Israel. So that's their king, who looks to be stepping down very, very shortly. Sorry. And at the same time, I'm not going to say who I think the counselor is, but I'm sure most of you can guess if you've watched my my decodes on the lavender video. And I think we're going to see that very, very shortly as well. So we're going to have this prophecy fulfilled right before our eyes incredibly shortly. So very, very interesting. And then over here you have the Ukraine. They're looking to do a peace talk in Saudi Arabia next week, which is very, very interesting when you consider exactly the placement of. So I've broken down first Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 3 into two parts. You have the peace and safety that's announced, and then you have the sudden destruction. So we're going to talk about the kind of distance between these two events within that single verse, and we'll kind of see how everything fits together. So I'll just go over to my timeline here. So everything that's in orange here is our events that I'm pretty well solid on, happening on the dates that they're listed behind. So the first thing we're going to look at here is Nebuchadnezzar, who I'm sure you can imagine who that is, falls off his stump. That's going to be March 8th. I'm pretty well 100% on this, just from all the symbolism that I've looked at, as well as kind of the predictive programming. Not to mention, it looks to be really coinciding with the king abdicating. So, yeah, this is going to be incredibly interesting to see how this plays into the peace and safety announcement. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But then we'll go to March 16th, Flight 77 takes off. So the departure of the church. I'm pretty well solid on this date. The only thing I was going to include was perhaps like 16 to 17, depending on the time zone. But from all the symbolism and the lead up right now, where we're going to have what looks like First Thessalonians 5:3 very, very quickly. Everything lines up for me in terms of biblical prophecy being fulfilled and symbolism. So I'm pretty well solid on this. I'm 100% on both of these. And then I'm also 100 on this right here, which is part 2 of First Thessalonians 5:3, which is the sudden destruction. Again, all the symbolism we've been looking at leads to this being the date. Not to mention that it all just fits in perfectly with First Thessalonians 5:3. So that fits together very, very well. I'm pretty well solid on these three events. I've included another variable here, so I try not to make this list like hyper specific. Like I didn't want to include things like the stock market crashing or like a dam bursting. Like this is all like very general prophetic events. This one not so much, but I think from everything we've seen, like it's very heavily encoded in symbolism. So I put 314, like the first day of our blood moon, for this event. My reasoning for this is just from symbolism from the Rapture episode from The Simpsons, as well as that one scene from the X Files, where they say like it begins on a Friday. I believe the 14th is a Friday. Let's take a look. Yeah, 14th is a Friday. So in terms of like that kind of X Files, like it all begins on a Friday. This is the Friday I foresee that happening on. I don't foresee it per se happening on this Friday right here, because I think that would create too much of a departure from normal prior to the departure of the church and the tribulation. So this is another thing. I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments, but for me, I don't believe that there's going to be a gap between the departure of the church and the beginning of the tribulation. It wouldn't fit in with prophecy for me, because every time in the Gospels, it's the referring to the beginning of the day of the Lord. It comes so as a thief in the night. I think we can't have these events here without then the day of the Lord coming as a thief in the night. After these events, we've pretty much departed from normal for good, for like history. So I think that I've noted up here the Daniel 9:27 covenant. I do believe we might see that before we go, if not like so in Daniel 9:27 they talk about the strengthening of the covenant. So that doesn't mean the creating of the covenant. I think we will see the creation of the covenant, and then somewhere down the line you'll have the strengthening of the covenant by the AC. So I do believe we actually will see this, or the groundwork for that, before we leave. So very, very interesting. So the last part here we're going to go over is March 7th. So part 1 of First Thessalonians 5:3, the announcement of peace and safety. I see this as a Ukrainian peace deal, as well as perhaps not the Daniel 9:27 covenant with many, but at the very least the framework for a two-state solution. This is where it gets very interesting, because if I'm solid, I am solid on this happening on this date. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this kind of peace and safety will come about, the announcement of peace and safety. So I'm kind of split in it could happen on 3/7, or it could happen down the line on, say, whenever that peace talk is in Ukraine. We could see it on like really any time that week. Let's see when that week starts, like 10 to. I think we could see that any time in the middle there. How this is going to affect it is going to be incredibly interesting, because it seems like this person is really the kind of anchor to the peace and safety. So this kind of makes me think that we're going to see the peace and safety from First Thessalonians 5:3 before this. And then, so I'll go to the verse actually, just so I find like just reading it like out loud helps place things better. Because I do sense like not a immediate kind of connotation with this. So I'll read it here. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them. there's not really a time marker in here. It gives the sense of urgency, but not immediacy, if that makes any sense. So I think it would be reasonable to assume that we could see the peace and safety on the 7th here, and then a week later, or no, sorry, longer than that, then like a week and a bit later, we have the sudden destruction. I think that would be possible, but also we could just have this like right down here as well, and it would still fulfill that prophecy. So that's the very interesting part. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, as to how, like, if this person's absence is going to lead to this. It could look something like it was such a shocking, tragic event that everyone just laid down their arms. That's how I kind of thought of it earlier today, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting to see how this all unfolds. Yeah, as I said earlier in the video, I only have like one, or I might have said earlier, but I only have like one really big decode left to make. As I'm going to be just watching the events of this of tomorrow and the weekend unfold, and if it unfolds the way I think it is going to, then I'll just put out that last big decode. But other than that, I kind of see my work in decoding is almost done, and I might just make a shift to this kind of like public service announcement type of videos. If you guys like this, just let me know. But yeah, it's very, very exciting times. That's for sure. But yeah, I'll just wrap this up. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. God bless. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends.